So thank you so much for joining us for our group on supporting each other. Today's group will be presented by Teresa and Paisley, both clinical mental health counseling students who are going on to be licensed mental health counselors in New York State. They are supervised by me at the Mental Health and Wellness Center at Malloy College. So thank you for joining us today in our partnership with Freeport Library. And I'm going to hand it over to you guys, so take it away.
Thanks, Dr. Brady. Thanks for having us here and letting us, giving us the opportunity to explore this topic with everyone. So I'm Teresa. Dr. Brady just introduced me, and I'll do the first couple of slides, and then I'd love, Paisley, if you wanted to chime in at any moment, or any of our guests want to chime in, I'd love to hear what you have to say. And then Paisley will go into depth into some of the topics that we have here. So welcome. Some guidelines that we like to establish before starting our presentations are just to keep your mic on mute and to enter any comments or questions in the chat box below, and it'll be monitored by Dr. Brady, who will read out loud for us. Since it's such a small group, I'm sure it's fine if you just chime in whenever you feel the need. But of course, we want to be make sure that we're mindful of what we ask, to make sure that it's about the topic we're talking or relevant in some way, and of course be respectful of one another. So our agenda today, while discussing supporting each other, is going to be pretty simple. We're going to first identify when we might need support, and then identify why we need support, identify what support actually is, and then we'll discuss those different types of support. And then we have a couple of supportive tools that we'd like to share with you, and then we have some time for open discussion. So here we go. When do we need support? So we want to reflect a little bit on times where we recall feeling the need to be supported. I know for me, I need a lot of support when I get overwhelmed, when I have a lot of things going on at work or in my personal life or at school. That's when I need support, and that support usually looks like service actions, like please make me dinner. That would be very supportive. Paisley, what do you think? Are there any moments like that that come to mind?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially right now with the holidays and the end of the semester happening, feeling very overwhelmed with whether it be schoolwork or personal work that I overbooked myself like I usually do. I feel like I could use some support from my partner. Helping out with the chores and things like that around the apartment will be very helpful and supportive. So again, that acts of service for me would be very supportive.
Agreed. I wonder if, because of our similar agendas, if that acts of service is so important to both of us because we're both so busy running around. I wonder what it looks like for other people with different schedules.
Yeah.
So some of the main reasons why people need to seek out support are listed here. This is not an exhaustive list. Of course, these are just the things that came to my mind. And if we have some psychologists or counselors in the room, they might wonder why some of these came to mind for me. But these are a lot of the main factors that people end up needing supporting when they're dealing with it. Racial stress, work stress when you're dealing with grief or loneliness, school, like we said, work, relationship challenges, illness is a big one. Anytime we're kind of processing something that's confusing or we need decision making to support making decisions, these are all times where we find ourselves in need of support. So why do we need support? Why can't we just manage all of these things on our own? Having a strong support system has so many benefits. We can deal with them on our own, but having support allows for us to have higher levels of well-being, to develop effective coping skills from learning from individuals around us, and also from receiving support and having good outcomes. having support proves to provide a more healthy, enriching life. It reduces depression and anxiety and alleviates symptoms of stress. And of course, having support makes it so that we can manage difficult situations. So there's all sorts of support, but the four main types of support you see in different fields are emotional support, instrumental support, informational support, and appraisal support. So each one of these can have a different breakdown or different methods of being provided and given. So I know that we are recording this, so I think that it's important for us to kind of go through each one of the important parts of each one of the different types of support, so that you can always just go back to and refer to this video in a time of need where you might need some clarity. So I'm going to list these briefly, and then Paisley is going to go into more depth with each one and provide some examples. So emotional support is the type of support that we're usually accustomed to. It's listening, empathy, showing concern and affection, providing encouragement. Instrumental support is kind of like what Paisley and I were referring to earlier. When we're feeling overwhelmed, our number one thing that we need is acts of service. Financial or like lending of an item that provides you some sort of support, like a car or computer. So informational support is providing information, facts, advice, suggestions, and appraisal is like encouragement, feedback, personal evaluations, highlighted qualities, things that help create a better sense of who you are. And trying to click to the next one. Let's see if it'll let me. Okay, there you go, Paisley.
Cool. So I'm going to start off by talking about emotional support. So ways that we can provide and also receive emotional support. Some things that come to mind for me in terms of how to provide emotional support would really be that, asking questions and actively listening to the person that we're trying to support, validating their feelings, lots of reassurance of their feelings and emotions. Something that we might not think of immediately would be providing physical touch. So sometimes, a hug or a pat on the shoulder can be really reassuring and supportive for people that are in need. And then also like that idea of maintaining eye contact, where our body's oriented towards when we're giving that support, we're having that conversation, can be really, really looked over and minuscule, but so helpful when you're trying to be supportive. And in terms of how to receive emotional support, it's important that, as someone that's receiving support, we, are open about what we're going through. We don't try to cover things up. We are open and accepting a broad range of supportive resources. There can be so many different ways we can emotionally support people. I think this is probably the most vast that I could think of. And also acknowledging your trigger. So knowing what is causing you to feel distressed, really talking that out, and being open with yourself about what's causing you to feel distressed. So an example could be friends and family providing hope and a listening ear, especially during the holidays. I think emotional support is a big one. Some of us get very overwhelmed trying to keep track of everything, and we just sometimes need a listening ear to talk to about our stressors. All right, so the next one is instrumental support. This one is very much so what Teresa and I were talking about earlier, this idea of acts of service. So to provide instrumental support, it's that idea of offering help or assistance in a tangible way. So things like providing someone money for help if they're going through treatment and they need support, or they're having a rough time during the holidays. Preparing dinner to someone who is bedridden could be a really good way to provide instrumental support. That idea of taking care of something that just makes that person's life a little bit easier. And I really think that to be able to receive instrumental support, we just have to be open and accepting and allow ourselves to relax and let someone else take the reins on these chores or events, or accept the help and kind of put our pride to the side for a few minutes and let someone help us out. So an example of this could be, a husband deciding to work from home 2 days a week to be with his children while his wife attends chemotherapy. That would alleviate for her, a big stressor, having to find someone to take care of her kids, or even bring them with her to her appointment. If he does that active service, then that would be very helpful and providing instrumental support for her. Informational support. This is that idea of providing advice. So advice giving, doing research and providing fact to someone that can help them feel more relief from a situation, and then also general guidance to people that we're trying to support. To receive informational support, I think that, again, this idea of being open-minded, to allowing someone to help, allow for information to be given to us is another big one to be able to receive informational support. And then also, if possible, if that's where you're at, to be able to aid in research of the person helping to support you could be a good way to receive informational support. So an example that I came up with was, doctors providing facts about cancer and guidance during a patient's treatment.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that we're still in tune with counseling if we're providing psychoeducation, kind of like we're doing now. We're providing informational support through our counseling lens for people who might need it.
Definitely. We are definitely providing informational support right now to whoever watches this video. The next section of support we're going to talk about is appraisal support. So to provide appraisal support, it's really that idea of encouragement, pointing out and reminding someone of their specific qualities that help them, be a strong individual and get themselves through a tough time. So providing information that can be useful to help someone self-evaluate. And to receive, again, this idea of just being accepting and open-minded and, trying to look at yourself in a clear lens. So an example could be a close friend reminding you of your strengths and qualities, and that can help you overcome a stressor. I know oftentimes we can get really down on ourselves, and especially, for example, if it comes to a homework assignment that we're struggling with. For me, I know sometimes I'll be like, I just can't do this, and I need someone, whether it be like my partner or my sister, to remind me, like, you can do this, you have all the resources, you have the knowledge, really reminding me that I'm able to take care of what I have to take care of, and that's that appraisal support. So how can we support one another? We've listed a couple of ways. I'm going to go through them. So remaining active in listening is a really, really integral piece of support. If we're not engaged and actively listening, then really what are we doing? Because that is the key to supporting each other. Also remaining non-judgmental, only giving advice when asked. No one wants anything forced upon them. So I think that that's an important thing to note, is only really giving that advice and guidance when someone is asking for it. Really also only giving what you can. So if you feel also stressed out, don't give too much of yourself, because you need to be able to take care of yourself as well, which goes in tune with the knowing your boundaries piece. You never want to make anyone else feel uncomfortable when you're giving advice or giving support. And you also need to know what the boundary is for yourself and your own well-being. When we're supporting one another, we want to be respectful, use kind words, be affectionate if wanted, which kind of touches back to that touch piece I was talking about earlier. Some people really benefit from, human interaction, a hug or a supportive, handhold or a shoulder touch. Others might not, so definitely check before we touch anyone. Celebrate each other, mourn with each other as well. So while yes, we want to support each other by celebrating our accomplishments and the good things that we're getting done and doing, we also need to be there with someone who is going through a loss or is going through a difficult time, and we need to be able to also mourn with each other. That's also supportive. Highlighting good characteristics, being encouraging, offering help, being patient, and then the biggest one would be forgiveness. Forgiving ourselves, forgiving other people if they need to say the wrong thing.
I love what you just said there, Paisley. Forgiving ourselves. This whole presentation is so much about how, you know, we receive support from others and provide support from others, but in the end, we really do need to know how to support ourselves, and forgiveness is such a key part of that.
Definitely. I think that even though we look for other people to support us, we need to also be able to support ourselves. So we can't rely on people. So it's important to acknowledge forgiveness and practice forgiveness with ourselves.
Absolutely. We have to be able to like have and fill our own cup before we can fill anyone else's, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so typically if we had a larger group, we would engage in a kind of a discussion. And Paisley and I talked a little bit about this before, but maybe we can actually, we didn't really talk about how we prefer to provide support. So maybe we can have a brief talk about this now, and then we'll wrap up. So we would pose to the group, how do you provide support? And the first thing that comes to mind for me is like exactly what we're doing here right now. Like Paisley is presenting, and how else can I support her right now in this space? And I think that I prefer to do that by nodding, looking in the camera, smiling, listening, responding to things that she's saying while she's presenting. I feel that this is my way of supporting the speaker. And I think that that kind of is an example of how I would provide support outside of the virtual world. Just responding in an encouraging manner that isn't over the top or flashy, I guess is the word that I was thinking. What do you think, Paisley?
Yeah, I think what you said is definitely true in terms of what we're doing right now, supporting each other through this presentation. I think a big way that I try to provide support like outside of this space to maybe like my friends or my family if they're going through a tough time or they're seeking support is really just listening. I mean, I just think that sometimes people are really quick to try to fix an issue before listening to an issue, and sometimes we just really need to talk it out and have someone really paying attention. So that's a way that I try to provide support to those around me. In terms of like this group setting that we're in right now, when we run these workshops, we do these PowerPoints, there's usually 2 of us providing support through chiming in, encouragement, keeping track of a chat is something so small, but still very helpful and very supportive.
Yeah, I feel like the core of that is just like helping the ease of things, making things a little bit easier, sharing the brunt of whatever work that has to be done. And I loved what you said before about just listening. And I feel like I like to check in with people to see how they're doing and then listen. And that like unsolicited advice piece really comes up for me a lot. Because I know when I receive unsolicited advice, I don't necessarily feel supported. I feel like I'm listening, you know, in a moment where I need support. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people are quick to just be like, oh, you know what you have to do? Like, do this. And it's not supportive and it's not helpful. So I think a presentation like the one that we're kind of completing now is really helpful. And I think a lot of people could benefit from watching this and learning, you know, what the boundaries are, how to properly give advice, how to properly support someone. Because I know I also don't love when someone just jumps to advice.
Right? And I think that it's not common knowledge for people to know that advice isn't always wanted. Like people are like, that's what advice is for. But it's just not well known that it has a negative effect.
Yeah, I agree.
So our next discussion that we would have had would be how do we like to receive support? And earlier we both mentioned that we like instrumental support, those acts of service. And I stand by that. Like nothing helps me more than someone just being like, let me take this off of your plate, especially if it's like a part of my regular routine. Like, oh my God, yes, please walk my dog, make my dinner. Like that would be great. So I can run around and do all the other things. But I think in other realms of support, I really respond well to, I guess, said listening and being there. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think for me, the most helpful for me is instrumental support. If someone can help cross something off my list and give me less on my plate, I'm all for it. You want to do my dishes? Do my dishes, please. Please come over to my dishes. But besides that, like, yeah, like again, a listening ear. I do also enjoy, depending on the person, a little bit of supportive touch for me is really helpful. And just having a conversation. And then when I am looking for the advice, for someone to be able to do that for me is also super helpful.
Yeah, I like the combination of the two different realms there. Affectionate touch from someone you want it from, and then advice for an informational advice for when you're actually seeking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Paisley, I'm here to support you in any of the realms that you feel are necessary and appropriate.
I'll walk your dog.
Thanks.
Do my
I'll do
dishes?
your dishes. I'll do your cat. How about that?
Okay.
So we can wrap things up there. Thanks so much for listening to our video. If you do feel like you are in need of additional support, whether it's emotional, instrumental, informational, or the fourth one, which is slipping my mind at the moment, please do come visit us at the Mental Health and Wellness Center. We have a fleet of student clinicians from the clinical mental health and wellness counseling program serving the public. So feel free to contact us at any of the contact information listed below, and Dr. Brady will pair you with one of our fantastic counselors.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paisley and Teresa. I really appreciate you bringing this wonderful program. There's some great information incorporated in here, and I think it's going to be super helpful in us getting through difficult times together. So thank you so much.